Ну что ж, под ваши аплодисменты я хочу представить вам и пригласить на сцену следующего спикера. Управляющий партнер BraveSoldier Venture Capital, венчурный инвестор и создатель успешных мировых IT-стартапов. Дерек – один из самых уважаемых лидеров бизнес-сообщества в Гонконге с 25-летним опытом выхода на азиатско-тихоокеанский рынок. Вне работы Дерек – знаменитый марафонец, первый азиат, который пересек самую высшую точку в мире, самую сухую, самую жаркую и самую холодную пустыню общей протяженностью более 1000 километров. По выходным Дерек бегает с рюкзаком, нагруженным 16-килограммовым рисом под названием Мини-Я. Он также мастер подводного плавания и джиу-джитсу. На нашей сцене бизнес-спикер Дерек Квик, Гонконг.
Hello. I was actually here speaking last year. Was anybody here last year to hear my talk? So last year, when I did my talk, I remember you. It was more about my business and how I all the different challenges that I went through in my business, similar to what Amit was talking about. But today I wanted to speak more about the foundation layer of the building blocks of how I became who I am today and how that allowed me to build my business. And I've also been told to leave time for questions, so I will try to speak very quickly and tell you my story so that we can go on to some questions from the audience. So can we start my presentation, please? Can someone start the presentation? So as we're waiting for that to get started, I grew up in Hong Kong. I was born and raised there, and I was always the smallest kid in class. So I got picked on a lot, I got bullied a lot, and I found my pillar of confidence to be in sports. So I was trying different types of sports, trying to learn different types of things to challenge my mind, to try different types of things, different challenges, whether it was running or swimming, different types of things, always trying to get these challenges to help build my personal character. So as part of that exercise, as I was growing up, I started to learn more and more about what my limitations were and what the limitations are that society puts on ourselves, right? So an example is with running. I didn't like running, but I tried it, and you have your sprinting, and then you have your long distance runs. So I tried both, and for me, being the size that I am, being a sprinter was quite good. But then I also wanted to try being a long distance runner. So I remember that the first speaker was talking about running 10K and then running 20K, and I tried that, and then I ran 30K and then 40K. 40K is roughly about a marathon. And I started running different types of marathons just to challenge myself to see if I could run the highest altitude marathon or the hottest temperature-wise marathon or the coldest, and trying these different challenges just to see how far I could push my body and see what I was able to do and what I wasn't able to do. Because I think we as people, it's perfectly fine. It's human nature to want to live in what I call your circle of comfort, your comfort zone, right? Because everything is routine, everything is predictable, and you know what that outcome is going to be. But if you don't challenge your thinking and push the boundaries of where those limits are, you'll never get better at what you want to do. So living in that circle of comfort is fine, but every day you need to think about pushing that boundary further and further so that you know where your limitations are. If everything was too easy in life, then no one would really improve at anything. So if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, like what Amit was talking about earlier, which was, I think one of the messages he had was that was to really talk about not doing things the way other people like to do them. And I really believe that as well, is sometimes you have to change things just a little bit just to make it your own, right? There's this bubble that society likes to put around all of us to say, you can only do this, you can only do that. Great, my presentation is finally here. So this is a picture of me running in the Sahara Desert in Egypt, and I'll get to a story about that later. This is the beautiful city that I live in Hong Kong. Has anybody been to Hong Kong before? It's fantastic. It's good to see people here. It's a great place to go. If you haven't been before, you should definitely go and visit. A lot of what I want to talk about today is about sharing the journey, not only the end result, not just the destination. So I went on Google Translate and I translated a lot of my slides. I don't know if in Russian if these translations work. So if it's not correct, I apologize for that. But my day job is I'm an investor. So we manage money for clients and we make investments into startup companies. Because Hong Kong is very close to China, I go to Shenzhen a lot, which is just over the border, and that's the manufacturing zone. A lot of the smartphones that you have, the laptops that you have, the tablets that you have, it's all made in China, right? All made just across the border. So a lot of my experience is in manufacturing, consumer electronics, robotics, mobile phones, electronic cigarettes, all types of things that are in the consumer electronics era is what I'm particularly good at. So we talked about Shenzhen, and not wanting to talk too much about the business. I wanted to talk more about how I developed my personal character today, and it kind of really started here when I was growing up, just kind of being the smallest kid in class. I think I was in my early teens back then, and just running track and field, and just learning about personal development. And then I thought about running marathons, and to me, marathon running was impossible, right? It's 42 kilometers, never tried it before, but if you never try, you'll never know, right? So I went in with an open mind on running that, and this is marathons, very popular all around the world. This is one in Hong Kong. Every year, 75,000 people go and run this marathon. It's really incredible. What about this thinking, which is running one marathon every day for 6 days, right? So it's 42 kilometers every day for 6 days, and it comes out to be around 250 kilometers. So that was the challenge I wanted to do, which was called an ultra marathon. So a normal marathon, 42 kilometers. An ultra marathon is anything over 50 kilometers. That's the definition. But the ones I wanted to try are like the ultra marathons, which are 250 kilometers. So, there's a fundamental difference between astronomers and astronauts, and you have to decide which one are you. So you can live vicariously through other people, or you can actually go out and do them yourselves. For me, I like to lead by example, so I want to try things. I don't want to just read about it in a book. I don't want to just learn about it by watching TV. I want to use my 5 senses to see, touch, to feel, to taste, to hear. I want to use all my senses in order to experience something. So this is a picture of Patagonia in Argentina. Really beautiful place. Bluest skies, very mountainous, very cold. And I went there to run an ultramarathon. 250 kilometers. You have to carry all your food and equipment in a backpack. So your sleeping bag, 7 days of food, a headlamp so you can see when you're running at night, any clothes, first aid kit, all of those types of things that you need to survive for the whole week to do running, and you're just running every single day. And there are organizers that help to organize these events, and they have this place where you go and they check all of your gear to make sure that you have everything you need, because if you don't have everything you need, you could actually put your life in danger. So after they do all these checks, you get your number, and then you're officially part of this event, and then the running starts. So you basically start here, and you go right along around the lake, and you come to the finish, which is 250 kilometers. And this thing is really slow. So you can see here, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 40 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 40 kilometers. And on stage 5, it's 80 kilometers. So they double the distance. And that type of challenge is really hard, because in those first few days you're running, and then you get the foot blisters and your muscles are sore. Maybe you get some sunburn, and your muscles are really tired. And then on day 5 is the really big challenge where you have to do 80 kilometers, and that's with your backpack. And it's not on a flat road. You're going up the mountain, then you're down the mountain. You're crossing the streams. You're getting your feet wet, and you have to continue on. And that's the challenge. So this one was 250 kilometers. And it was quite cold. It was about 3 degrees Celsius. Sunny days. It's not working. And then you can see here, this is where we sleep every night. We sleep in a tent, and it's very cold, so I have to wear all the clothes that I brought to sleep. And then you can see these are some of the places that we have to go, and you have to cross the water, and you get your feet wet, and they have checkpoints for you to fill up your water. And then you can see some of the terrain is really spectacular in where you go. And this, you can see here, was 44 kilometers for one day, and then going on to the next day, and then continuing on. And then my wife would write me notes to encourage me every day to keep trying and never give up. And then I have my food, which is just your ramen, your dehydrated meals that you add water, and you continue on. So each day is a new challenge. And these are some of the other runners that are on there. This is sleeping at night. It gets so cold, you have to put all your clothes on. And the next morning, they have a briefing, and they tell you what the terrain is going to look like, what the challenges are going to be for the day, and you continue to run the next day. And you can see all the tents here. And then each day, my feet get worse and worse. If I can go back in this slide, it's not letting me. So each day, your feet get worse and worse, and you have to continue to find a way to challenge yourself. And each day, I start with a card from my wife, and then my food for the day. So you can see here the water was quite cold, and we have to cross through, because in Patagonia there's a lot of snow up in the mountains, and when it melts and it comes down into the rivers that we have to cross, the water is very cold. And then on some days it's raining, so we have to deal with the rain when that happens. We continue going, and when you move in on these things, you always feel like you want to quit, because as the days go on, the injuries and the fatigue just accumulate, and it becomes very challenging to keep pushing forward. And every day I'm adding new bandages to my feet, and I'm popping my blisters, and it's just another challenge that you have to go through to keep moving, and getting ready and filling up your water in the morning, and then continuing on. And then you see a lot of wildlife out there, crossing a lot of beautiful streams, and then coming out to the lake where it's super windy. And this actually reminds me, when I was here, it reminded me of me being out by the lighthouse in Vladivostok, where it's super windy and it's really cold. And this reminded me of that, where it was just so cold and unbearable, but you had to continue to keep moving along this lake. And then I finished this day. It was like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was pouring rain. You can't see the rain, but I was just completely soaking wet. And we had finished that day, and this was the 80-kilometer day. This day was really, really difficult. And then sleeping the next day, and then this is the last day, which basically is we're running up to a glacier, so you can see there's more snow in the background. And then it was everybody's shoes were wet from the rain, so they put their shoes by the campfire, and then they would go back to their tent to sleep because they were so tired from running the 80 kilometers. But if you don't watch your shoes, they'll actually melt by the fire. So a lot of people woke up the next after their nap, and they had their shoes. They found out that their shoes were melted. And one of my secrets to running is actually I carry these little ketchup packets from McDonald's. So I have these little ketchup packets, and I eat those when I go running. So on the last day here, you can see I crossed the finish line here with my Hong Kong flag, and this was 250 kilometers. And right after that, I got on the plane, and I flew back to Hong Kong, just finished 250 kilometers, and I wasn't tired. I wasn't challenged enough. So 4 days later, I got on another plane, and I went to Japan. I went to Osaka, and I ran the Osaka Marathon. Just one, 42 kilometers. But I didn't know if my body could do it because I just run 250, and I thought, I wonder if I could run 42 kilometers 4 days after running 250. And my philosophy is, if you don't try, you'll never know. So I went there, and I thought, you know what, I'll probably go here. I'll be so tired, my feet hurt. I'll probably run, walk, and it will take a long time, but I'll finish the marathon. I actually went, and I ran the entire marathon without stopping, and I was quite proud of myself because I didn't know if I could do it. So there's me running the marathon, and then and I ran. So I ended up running 292 kilometers in 7 days. So I put my Patagonia finisher's medal right next to my Japan Marathon finisher's medal. So what else is interesting about me? I've written 2 books, one about for adults about running. It's more motivational. And then I wrote an inspirational book. It's a children's book for kids, and it's about teaching kids to explore their surroundings and don't just learn from the internet or from watching TV, but go out and experience everything with the 5 senses. Because when I was growing up, in Hong Kong, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have TV, cable TV to learn things. So if you wanted to learn about the outdoor environment, you actually had to go out and experience that yourself. And I give a lot of lectures at universities. I'm an advisor to different companies as an investor. As you know, I run my ultramarathons, and I love cooking. I have a passion for cooking, and I never took a cooking lesson in my life. But when I was younger, I learned that cooking was the best way to meet girls. So that was the reason why I wanted to learn how to cook, and I've given some motivational talks. So one of my passions is animal welfare. So I learned to use my running skills to talk about animal welfare, because when you take a pet home, it's for life. It's like a family, right? It's like a family member. And if you want to train to run a marathon, that is also a commitment where when you get off work, you have to do some running. On the weekends, you have to go do some running, and then you go out and test yourself. So there's this alignment or these parallels between the things that I like to do. But the foundation layer is my running. So I wrote my books, and I promote them. I sell them, and then I donate all those proceeds to my charity. So in Hong Kong, people know me as that running guy. And then this is my children's book, and I go to children's schools and I promote the book there. And then they're sold in bookstores, and it's about a boy and his dog, and they travel around the world to explore and to learn. And it's a lot like The Adventures of Tintin or the French book Le Petit Prince. So it's about teaching kids to explore their surroundings. And this was a great little project because I went from zero to store shelves in 8 months. So it's literally taking a blank sheet of paper and then working with a student who's really good as an artist to do the drawings. And every day we would work together. Every weekend we would work on a storyboard. And then for 8 months we would do this, and at the end of the year it was on store shelves, and that was really neat to walk into a bookstore and to see your book on a shelf, or to go into your friend's house and see your child, a child reading the book is really special. And these are all about the adventures that I had, whether it's sleeping under the stars or crossing the desert, crossing the jungle. It's these types of experiences that I want to encapsulate and put them into a storybook format. So here's some pictures of the books that I've done, and the promotion for that, and donating those to my charities. And then it's really neat to get invited to children's schools to actually read my books to kids. So the other one of my hobbies is cooking, and is really neat to invite people over. And the best way to learn cooking, and if you think about it, the best way to learn about anything is actually through repetition. So the more times you do something, the easier it gets. So the way I like to think about it is your 10th spaghetti will always taste better than the first time you cooked it. So another thing that's interesting is that because of my cooking now, a lot of charities will ask me to be what I call a take-home chef. So they'll auction me off at a charity event, and they'll say, "Oh, Derek will cook for you if you make a bid for his cooking skills." So the people at these events, at these charity events, will just bid, and I'll actually go to their home, and I'll buy all the groceries, and I'll cook for them and their guests, and that's really interesting to do that. So one of the events, I was actually auctioned off, and somebody paid $15,000 for me to go to their home and cook for them, and that money was for the charity. Another one of my passions is youth education. So I like to work with schools and teaching kids how to challenge themselves, how to motivate them and inspire them to do bigger things. So I give talks to teach kids about motivation and entrepreneurship. And because of that, all the different things that I do that are sports related, as I mentioned earlier, is to really to challenge myself. So I do hiking, running marathons, as you know, rock climbing, climbing mountains, scuba diving. I do some Thai boxing, jumping out of airplanes. I'm learning jiu-jitsu now. It's actually really hard to learn how to choke somebody because they're not going to let you just choke them. So that's always been a challenge for me. But I've been at it, practicing it for quite a number of years now. So every time I go, I get better and better. But the thing I like to do most is to challenge myself doing these types of runs, multi-day runs across the most extreme places on the planet, anywhere between 250 kilometers to 500 kilometers, between 7 to 10 days of carrying all your food and equipment in a backpack. And it's really man versus Mother Nature. So if there's a snowstorm, you run through it. If there's a sandstorm, you run through it. If there's a river, you swim across it. You just have to figure out how to get to the finish line. And if you think about the life of an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. There are all these challenges along the way. No matter how much you train in sports, there's always going to be a problem that comes along, and you just have to figure out how to push past that. If you're starting your own business and you have a business plan, I don't care how much research you do in your business plan, there's always going to be something that you did not account for that you have to figure out how to get past. It could be regulation, not in your control. For us, when we go running, it could be the weather. That's also not in our control. We just have to plan for those things to happen. So I've run across 9 deserts, 4 jungles, and 6 mountains. All those little blue dots are places that I've gone running, even down south to Antarctica. And the red dot there is the one that I most recently did, which was in Spain. I ran 250 kilometers in Spain last year, and that was my challenge for the year. So every year I try to go to a different location. Even some of the local ones in Hong Kong, like this is 100 kilometers. And this was actually a very interesting story because in this one, this was my first ultra distance event, which was 100 kilometers, but it was through Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is a lot of these mountains just go up and down, up and down, up and down. So you're running up one mountain, then you're running all the way down to the bottom, up to the next one, all the way down to the bottom, and you're doing that for 100 kilometers. And the first time I ran it, after I think like 3-4 hours, we were with a team, and our team, and we all questioned why are we here? Like we could be at home in a warm bed, air conditioning, hot food, sleeping. We don't need to suffer through this. So we quit. And then the next day on Monday, when I went back to work, everybody's asking me, oh, so how did you do? And I said, well, I didn't finish. And people said, whoa, wait a minute, did you get hurt? And I'm like, no, I didn't get hurt. And I was like, so what happened? I was like, well, I just didn't feel like doing it. I just didn't have the will to do it anymore. And everybody that comes to you and asks you that, you start to feel like you did something wrong, right? And the natural human reaction after you feel like you did something wrong is you feel regret, right? And what happens after regret? You want redemption. Oh, but I can do it. I'm good. I can do it. But unfortunately, redemption comes next year. So I train and train and train, and then next year I do this. I attempt it again with a better mind. But 4 hours into the event, I sprained my ankle. And then I thought about, if I have to go back on Monday morning and tell everybody I didn't finish this time because of an injury, I'll have regret again, and I want redemption again, and I don't want to wait a whole year to do it. So after I sprained my ankle, I went to the medical tent, and I told the medic that I sprained my ankle. They said, oh yeah, you sprained your ankle, you should quit. And I said, are you recommending I quit, or are you making me quit? Because there's a difference, right? And they said, well, I'm not going to make you quit, but I don't see how you can continue on with a sprained ankle. And I said, great, then I'm just going to keep going. So I just walked the whole way. It took me 37 hours to do 100 kilometers, but I finished. And on Monday morning when I went to work, I told everybody that I finished, and that's what I wanted, right? That type of challenge and that perseverance really showed what kind of mind you have if you set yourself to do something. And then I went back the third year, no injuries, and I ran the 100 kilometers in 20 hours. My father taught me that the easiest thing to do is to quit, because there's really no skill that's required to do that, and I really believe that. So quitting is not something that I think about. I think about the consequences of not finishing something, the consequences of having to come back to Hong Kong and telling everybody they didn't finish. And how can I come up on stage and be a motivational speaker or be an inspirational speaker if I have to tell everybody that I quit? So for me, having to run the highest altitude desert in the world, which is the Gobi Desert in China. It's the one with the camel there. It's 5,000 meters above sea level. The hottest, which is the Sahara Desert in Egypt, is 50 degrees Celsius during the day, 37 degrees at night. And then the bottom is the Atacama Desert in Chile. And all that white stuff is are salt flats. And then you can see Antarctica there. And that was amazing because it was minus 26 degrees Celsius. And we had 100-kilometer winds that were blowing as you were running. If they're blowing behind you, it's literally pushing you along. And if it's blowing against you, you can't run. You just have to walk. It's impossible to run when you have that strong of a wind blowing. So here are some of the places that I've gone running in. I'm going to leave some time for questions, so I'm going to zip through these pretty quickly. 500 kilometers in Malaysia. And then this was like biking, paddling, swimming in the ocean, trekking through the jungle. And then this is in New Zealand, climbing mountains in New Zealand. And this in Morocco, in the Sahara Desert in Morocco. And then this is the Gobi Desert in China, Atacama, Chile, the Sahara Desert in Egypt, this Amazon jungle in Brazil. That one was really horrible because the Amazon jungle in Brazil, everything wants to poke you, bite you, sting you, stab you, poison you. It's just, the jungle is just a horrible place to be. Antarctica. And then life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it, right? So some things happen in life, and I tore my Achilles. So if you guys know what that is, the Achilles is the tendon that connects your foot to your calf muscle. And I injured that, and my calf muscle was up behind my knee, and people said, oh, what kind of desert did you run across to have that kind of an injury? And it was actually playing a game of dodgeball, right? So the game of dodgeball, and I had it surgically reattached, and I had to go through all this rehabilitation, and everybody told me that my running days were over, right? I had to wear this special boot, and it was very challenging, but I told myself that I was going to get better from this, and this was going to be what I call the new normal, because the old normal is never going to return, right? So 5 weeks later, I ran the Macau Marathon. It wasn't pretty, but I finished. And then 8 weeks later, I ran the Hong Kong Marathon, and I finished. And then everybody told me, it's like, oh, but the thing you like to do, those ultra marathons, that's something that you probably can't do anymore. And I said, you know what? You're right. If I don't try, I'll never know. So 13 weeks later, I went to Namibia in Africa, and I ran 250 kilometers, and I finished. And I came back to Hong Kong, and my doctor was so proud of this that he put me in the hospital brochure. So this is the new normal. So Mike Tyson, the famous boxer, said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and it's very true. It's like no matter how much you train for something, there's always going to be a problem that you didn't foresee coming, and you have to be able to think on your feet and figure out how to get through it. So when I train in Hong Kong, I have my watch, and it maps my run so I can see where I go running, and I post it to social media, and I share my training, and I run around Hong Kong Island. I was getting ready for my next run, running ran the Bangkok Marathon. You can see all my catch-up there. And then my next run as part of my training, so I run marathons to train for ultra marathons. So my next marathon was a Hong Kong Marathon, normal. I finished that. And then my third marathon was to run the Tokyo Marathon, and I got ready for this. But 10 kilometers into this 42-kilometer marathon, I trip and I fall, and I didn't know it at the time, but I tore my hamstring, and it was very painful. But I continued on. But when after I finished my marathon, you can see my leg had swollen up, and this was really bad because it took 3 months to heal. But 12 days from this time, I was going to Sri Lanka, and I was going to run my 250-kilometer marathon. So you can see here on this side, you can see me standing on the end, and I wasn't sure if I could run it, but I had good days, I had hard days, I had so-so days, and I had really bad days where I just had to walk, and then there were other days where I just had to lie down, and I thought, this is the one that I'm not going to be able to finish. But I read my notes from my wife, and she said, keep going. And on the last day, 1,870 steps up to the top of this rock was the finish line, and I finished. So life never gives you any moment of your choosing. Pain is temporary, but you always have to think about that quitting lasts forever. There's other slides that I have here, but I wanted to leave time for questions. So maybe it's a good time that I stop here and leave it to people to ask me some questions.
Друзья, мы переходим к вопросам нашему спикеру. Кто первый желающий задать вопрос? Можно нам микрофончик, пожалуйста, спустить вниз? Сейчас у нас уважаемые волонтеры нам помогут. Вот сюда можно спускать на первый ряд сразу же, потому что здесь первый вопрос уже готов. А пока вы думаете, мы, скорее всего, перейдем потом на левую часть зала, и там уже посмотрим, кто готов будет задать. Вы хотите, да? Тогда вы будете вторыми, ну а на левая часть уже следующими.
Дерек, спасибо вам за ваше выступление. Из вашего выступления я понял, что вы очень много бегаете. А вопрос мой, зачем?
So running is something that I hate running. Running is so boring, but what I like is that challenge. Is I don't like to do things that are easy. I always pick the things that are hard. If you give me the choice of running half a marathon, 20K, and then going out for a pizza, or running a full marathon and then going out for pizza, I'd rather run the full marathon, because to me there's being able to do things that are greater, or that things that people think are exceptionally difficult, but if you do them enough times, then it becomes the new normal, right? It doesn't become that difficult anymore. So a lot of people think like, oh, you train and you train and train, and you run one marathon, and then when you finish, you should rest 1 week or 2 weeks and take it easy. And that's the normal mindset. That's what society dictates that you should do. But who says that you are normal? Who says that you fit on that bell curve? You fit right on the middle, right? To me, it's like you're either on one side of that bell curve or you're on the other side, but you shouldn't be right in the middle. So if you're going to run one marathon, well then tomorrow I'm going to try 2. And after I do 2, I'm going to try 3. And I'm going to just keep pushing that to see how far I can go. And what that does is it strengthens your mind, and how you apply that into your personal life, whether it's work or with your family, you can learn these things. They're very valuable lessons that you can learn in running marathons, because there's a lot of problem solving that happens. There's a lot of training that goes around. But the further you push yourself, the more you know where your abilities are.
Спасибо большое. Переходим к следующему вопросу. Вот в центре второго ряда мужчина в белой футболке. Вот ему передайте, пожалуйста, микрофон. Ну, не совсем мужчина в белой футболке. Ты почти угадала. Ваш вопрос.
Здравствуйте, спасибо за выступление. Вопрос такой. Сколько вам лет и во сколько вы начали заниматься бизнесом?
So how old do I look? Does anybody know? I just turned 51 years old a couple weeks ago. I don't believe that age has anything to do with anything. Age is just a number. A lot of people say that, but I really believe it's true. It's all in your mind in terms of what you think your limitations are. When did I start? I graduated from college in 1990, and just like a lot of people, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished college at a bank, because that's what all my friends were doing. I didn't know if I liked it, but I just thought I just follow the flow, right? Like cows in a pasture, just follow the herd. And I realized after a few years that I actually hate banking. I didn't like finance. It was just what other people were doing. And then I one day just had this moment where I sat down and I asked myself, well, never mind what my friends are doing, never mind what everybody else is doing, what do I like to do, right? And I said, well, I like to build companies. I like to help people, inspire people, motivate people, help them build their dreams. And along the way, I'm actually fulfilling my own dream, which is to help others, whether it's to help animals or to help youth education. And along the way, you're helping to build a better community, a better society. So for me, I thought the best way to do that would be to be an investor, but to be a hands-on investor, where we invest in a company, but unlike other investors where we just read the business plan and we sit back and we let them do the work, we're very different where we invest in the companies, but we actually roll up our sleeves and we go up to the founders, the owners of the company, said, okay, what work do you need to be done? No work is too small for me. If you need me to help you take out the trash, I'll do that. If you need me to help you introduce you to customers, I can do that. If you want me to help you write a marketing plan, I'll do that. It's just about we as a team, how do we get to the finish line together? So I set up my own business in 2004. So I've been doing that ever since.
Спасибо большое. Переходим к леву.
Вопрос еще такой. Хотели бы марафон в России пробежать? У нас тоже очень суровые условия.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd actually love to go. My dream is to go to Siberia and run, not during the winter time, but run like any other time. I'd love to do a run in Siberia. But next year, I'm going to run in Georgia, so I'm really looking forward to that. But this year, in September, I'll go to Albania and I'll run 250 kilometers in Albania.
Спасибо большое. Попрошу передать микрофон обратно волонтеру. Мы просто хотим на левую часть зала. Не передавайте микрофон раньше времени. Там наверху есть рука в левой части зала. Да. Мы вернемся потом к вам. Я дам вам слово обязательно. Следующий вопрос будет ваш. Мы так просто хотя бы немножко будем правильно разделять части. Передавайте девушке микрофон, да, задавайте ваш вопрос.
Добрый день, друзья. Хотелось бы минутку информации. Сегодня стало известно, что Владивосток стал беговой столицей России, поэтому, Дэвид, вдвойне приветствую вас. Думаю, что мы в этом совпадаем с вами. Мой вопрос: как изменилась ваша предпринимательская активность с тех пор, как вы стали активно бегать? Есть ли, на ваш взгляд, взаимосвязь между этими двумя направлениями вашей жизни? Спасибо.
Oh, I'd love to come here to do running. Actually last year, after my talk last year, I actually went running around the campus here, and that was very beautiful. How did my life change after I started running? Is I felt that mentally my mind got stronger, and I realized that there's always a point in time in anything that you do. It doesn't have to be running; it could be anything. Where you want to quit, because that's natural human nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I learned about running is that there's a point in time when you first start, let's say the marathon, the first 10 kilometers is actually very difficult because your body's not warmed up, your muscles aren't warmed up, and you're not in the right mindset yet. And that's the point in time where I ask myself, why am I doing this again? I thought I hate running. And all of this doubt and these questions come up. But I tell myself that if I just push past that point of weakness where you want to quit, then after that 10-kilometer point, everything starts to flow smoothly. And then once you get to the halfway point, 20 kilometers, then all the numbers go backwards, right? So you're already at the halfway point. There's really no point to quit and turn around. You may as well just finish. So it's in that one moment of weakness in anything that you do when you quit, and then you have that regret, because right after that moment of quitting, you think about, okay, I quit. Okay, now I can go home, or I don't have to do that activity anymore. But then you realize you accomplished nothing, right? You've accomplished zero. And then that accountability that you have to other people that are looking to you for that motivation, that inspiration, you no longer are able to do that for them. So you always have to think about the accountability of what you have to other people in your community, whether it's to your friends, to your family, and what quitting means to them.
Спасибо большое. Передайте, пожалуйста, микрофон на второй ряд, и мы потом перейдем к правой части. Ваш вопрос будет следующим.
Hello, my name is Alex. I just wonder, do you take any vitamins or special nutrition which keeps you alive after all?
So I am the most unhealthy person you have ever met. Actually, for everybody here. I don't think any of you here knows somebody who... So I don't really drink water. I drink soda every day. I drink about 6 cans of soda a day. I eat potato chips. I eat chocolate chip cookies. I eat jelly beans. I am not healthy at all. But because of all the running that I do and all of the energy expenditure that I do, I think that's why I can eat all of this junk food. So it's no exaggeration when I tell you that I live on junk food. I'm not healthy at all. So when I go running, I don't bring any power bars. I don't bring any power gels, because if you break that type of nutrition down to a science, then it comes down to so many grams of protein, so many grams of fat, so many grams of carbohydrates, but it doesn't taste good, right? And to me, running and eating, it's comfort food, right? You need to make yourself happy. Food to me is a morale booster. I don't care about the healthy part. I just want to be happy. So when I'm running, I bring jelly beans, and I'm eating my jelly beans, and I come up to people who are having a tough time, and they're walking, and they're thinking about quitting, and I give them a handful of jelly beans just to get them past that point of I want to quit. And then at the end of the day, when they see me at the campsite, and they're like, you know what, I was going to quit, but those 3 jelly beans you gave me, that changed my life, right? And that's what I feel good about, right? So it's not the power bars that get you to the next checkpoint. It's the jelly beans that you reward yourself with when you get there.
Спасибо большое. Передавайте микрофон на эту часть зала.
Добрый день, меня зовут Сергей. Мы тоже во Владивостоке, в Приморском крае, очень любим спорт, в том числе и дайвинг, и заплывы на дальние дистанции, и тоже мы любим бизнес во Владивостоке. Вы очень хорошо описали ваш марафон, как вы занимаетесь спортом. Особенно хорошо вы описали, как вы это все преподносите, что пишете книги, потом помогаете детям, на благотворительность все премиальные фонды от продаж ваших книг. Посоветуйте, пожалуйста, нам, жителям Приморского края и вообще в принципе России, какие вы советы дадите, чтобы мы популяризировали свои достижения, потому что наши ребята примерно так же, как и вы, преодолевают такие же дистанции, в некоторых местах даже больше и серьезнее. И мы знаем, что во время бега помогает не только кетчуп из Макдональдса. Вот. Как нам лучше все это описывать, как лучше все это популяризировать? Какие советы вы дадите в этом случае? Спасибо.
To me, sports is a foundation layer for a lot of things that I do. And because of that, I want to inspire youth, inspire my own children to use sports as a foundation layer to boost their motivation, to boost their level of competitiveness, and to boost their level of sportsmanship. So there's all of these rules or this etiquette that you have in sports. And I think sports allows you to build up all of these foundations that you can apply into your daily life. So I think for all of you, whether as individuals or as parents, you have to lead by example. So if you want to inspire youth to do something, you have to do it yourself. You have to show them you have to show them by example on how to do things. If you want them to swim, you need to provide them with the tools to swim and show them what it means what the benefits that you can have from swimming or running or jiu-jitsu or whatever the sport activity is, and learning the elements of that particular sport, whether it's shaking hands before the match and then shaking hands after the match. and having that level of competitiveness, having that fair sportsmanship, knowing not to cheat, all of those different types of things are what I think youth needs as a foundation layer. But you yourself have to do that as an example in order to inspire them.
Спасибо большое, друзья. К сожалению, это был финальный вопрос. Тайминг не позволяет нам выйти за рамки. Дерек, спасибо вам большое за ваш передний опыт. Мы хотим также вручить вам подарок от организаторов. Спасибо, что прилетели, потратили на нас свое время. Аплодисменты, Дерек Квик. Мы провожаем вас в зрительный зал. Дорогие друзья, я хочу напомнить про информацию. В 13:30 в холле Welcome начнется мастер-класс от компании Эватор, производителя онлайн-касс, где они расскажут, как зарабатывать больше. Они проведут открытую лекцию, поэтому все, кому интересно, подходите и слушайте. Я думаю, многие из вас подчеркнут нужное для себя. Сейчас мы объявляем обеденный перерыв, для того, чтобы вы немножко перезарядились, перезагрузились. Объясню, где можно пообедать, если кто не знает. Если вы будете выходить из нашего корпуса и будете стоять лицом к выходу, правая дверь — это будет переход в корпус А и в корпус Б. Там есть кофейни и есть столовые. Левая дверь — это будет переход в корпус С и в корпус Е. Там также есть кофейни, столовые, поэтому, я думаю, без особых очередей вы сможете с комфортом попитаться и немножко перезагрузиться. Хочу напомнить, что в 14:00 мы начнем без опозданий следующую сессию мастер-классов. Ну а пока всем приятного отдыха и приятного аппетита на обеденном перерыве. Мы скоро вернемся. В 14:00 мы продолжим форум роста.